Okay, we decided we're all ready, so Minette's going to do the intro.
So, hey, welcome back. This is our third podcast recording today. We'll just be honest and upfront about that. And we're feeling a little bit, and we may be acting a little weird because we've had a lot of smoke inhalation as well.
That's right.
Because the hills in front of us are on fire.
Oh, wow.
If you listen to this podcast, hopefully they will have put the fire out.
Hopefully.
But during the recording part, it's been a crazy couple of days. So welcome back to the Path to Profit podcast. I am Dr. Minette Riordan, along with my husband, Brad Dobson. We are the co-host of this show, as well as the co-founders of the Path to Profit Academy, where we teach creative entrepreneurs how to embrace their creativity and create systems that allow them to go with the flow and not put their business in a box. I hear from so many creatives this fear that I'm going to make them do business like everybody else, and I'm not. And our guest today is a brilliant model and example of this, and I'm so excited to have her here. Ying, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ying.
Hi.
And she's joining us from Hong Kong
From
today.
Hong Kong and
I think that's
Singapore
our first overseas.
and
guest.
Vancouver and San Francisco, and she and I met in San Jose, right?
Worldwide Ying.
This is worldwide Ying. Exactly. And we're going to be talking about what she calls the YOLO lifestyle. And if you don't know what that stands for, just sit tight because you're going to learn. So you want to share a little more about Ying, and then I'll share the quote?
Definitely. Ying Han Cheng is an international best-selling author, speaker, and conscious business innovation coach. She supports entrepreneurs, conscious creators, and third-cultured kids, I want to know what that term means, in 5 continents to pinpoint their passion, turn it into action, and in many cases fund their 6-figure YOLO lifestyles. Her clients span Asia, Africa, Europe, and the United States. Her You Only Live Once Life and Business Style book and Freedom Success Formula International Online Group Coaching Program has been seen on 350 plus networks, including the big ones that you think of. Prior to coaching, she managed digital marketing teams in 6 countries.
Now you've got me thinking about the big ones.
ABC, all that.
Yeah. CNN. I mean, it's worth saying because it's a big deal. It's great positioning.
Definitely. She also holds a Master's of Science degree in Innovation, is a Master Neuro-Linguistic Programming Practitioner, and has been part of Stanford, Claremont McKenna College, Singapore Management University, and the University of San Francisco. Welcome again, Ying.
And
Thank you.
Stanford Cardinals. And so, Ying, we always start with a quote. And so our quote for the day is by Eddie Cantor. And Eddie wrote, "Slow down and enjoy life. It's not only the scenery you miss by going too fast, you also miss the sense of where you are going and why."
Cool.
And I felt like that would be a great lead-in to the YOLO lifestyle and everything that you stand for, what you model so beautifully, and what you teach your clients. But, we got to back up. And so what the heck does YOLO stand for?
So for the younger generation, it's actually you only live once, and they see it as something that is, contrary to the popular belief, which is basically you see a vision of people holding red cups in college, trying to down drinks and be like YOLO, and using that as an excuse for everything that they want to do. Contrary to that, it's something else. And for the older generation, or the more experienced and the wiser generation, I use the quote, "You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough," by Mae West.
Very nice.
And so for them, it's really about, so altogether, it's really about that life that you've created, that is that one life that you're actually going to live. So it's no one else's life. It's just your life. And what is the business that you're going to create? What is the way, how are you going to contribute to this world? And who are you in this once in a lifetime life? So that is the whole philosophy of YOLO, really, really being conscious about what you're creating, because ultimately that is what's going to give you joy, fulfillment, freedom, fun, and inspired connections.
And I see you doing that yourself. We were talking a little bit before we started, and you have these beautiful vision boards behind you. And you've, if you're watching on YouTube, they really are pretty. And you've found your place geographically, but you also know that because of the lifestyle you've created, you're able to not be locked into a location. You're creating that life. So I love that you're representing what it is that you're working with your clients on. That's really neat.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do I want to say this? Like, how did you come up with that sense of YOLO being so important to you and being kind of the driving force?
Absolutely. I mean, it's come up for me over and over and over again and throughout my life in different stages. I mean, the first time that it came up, it actually almost costed my life. And that was one of the reasons why I actually even got into this business, which started actually when I was still in corporate. So before coaching and before marketing, before traveling the world, I was in digital marketing at a really great company called Ogilvy. And there I had this picture perfect, Facebook perfect life where, it was name brand company. After going to name brand universities, you're like, yeah, like the next step of the success ladder is to go to a name brand company and to be the best team and to do all these really great things that you think that is going to bring you happiness. And so, off I went on that train, and I was there managing 7 countries, like I mentioned, or like the bio mentioned earlier. And no matter what I did for those years, inside, I had this inner voice that was telling me that I really wasn't enjoying what I was actually doing. And I ignored it. I was like, nope, mind over matter. I'm going to push through. And that actually costed my health. My 10-year battle with an eating disorder had come back. And it really shocked me and just really got me to a place where I couldn't ignore it anymore. And so I went on a healing journey to look for every possible solution to heal, because I thought, I'm way too young to have this for the rest of my life. And that took me to a place where I really had to face my own fears and face my truth, and ask myself, am I really ready to move on from this, and really willing to let this facade and this eating disorder go? And at that point, I was in a retreat center in Valencia. I had gone around the world looking for solutions. It was like my last option. And deep within myself, I got connected and it said yes. And from that day onwards, it was such a powerful experience that I decided that, there is really no other way to live than to live that you only live once life. And that gave me the courage to quit. It gave me the courage to not go back into the rat race that I was so familiar with, yet wasn't the right thing. And I started teaching the systems to all my clients and like allowing them to also bloom into their YOLO lives and figuring out what that is. So
yeah, because that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's lots to figure out after, but that space of just figuring out what that is in the very beginning. Right?
Yeah, that's the first step.
This is so funny sorry to interrupt. This is so funny to me because it took me about 25 years to realize the same thing. I went through a similar journey with health and, drive myself into the ground. And it's funny how you can almost see a progression when you look at a show like Mad Men, where, that was the version of what life meant for someone, either a man going into industry or perhaps a woman going into just being a housewife or whatever. And it was that set thing. And then my version of it that happened, 30 years ago wasn't quite as set, but I still knew that I was going to go into a corporate job and have a job and work for the man and all that type of stuff and work. And it was all about work. And now to see, because we have one kid that's about to go to university and another that's a couple of years away from it. But to see that, I think they're starting to understand the that the whole world really is their oyster. For me, that's kind of what the YOLO lifestyle means these days, is that I don't know if I say these days, being an old guy, but I can
hey,
see
it's universal.
I can see how that it's somehow connected to how we're much more of a global culture now, how travel is so easy, how we're connected through the internet, that people can see so much opportunity that's different from that traditional go to school, get a job, work really hard, retire at 65 and die of a heart attack at 75 or whatever it is. That's just not even on people's radar these days. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but I see some parallels in my journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And thank you also for just sharing so honestly your journey and how you came to this point, because I'm sure that compassion makes a huge difference in your life as a coach. And yet I'm still curious, how did you get from healing journey to quitting your job to what you are doing now? Because I think that process is so curious for people that, because like us, you've done a lot of different things, lived a lot of different places, taken some big risks, right?
Yeah.
Let go of a lot. And we often get this feedback from people, I could never do that. Or, wow, that's impressive. And, it's so cool. I wish I could do that. Like when we moved from just Texas to California, not from Vancouver to Hong Kong, right? Or when Brad completed his first 2 Ironman triathlons, right? Writing a book. I've written 3 books, not including my dissertation. And it's that sense of, you only live once that I think drives it. But I'm curious if you could share just a little bit more about your journey from post-corporate to this amazing YOLO life that you're living now.
I mean, so the key to it is actually realizing that your YOLO life evolves, and the process of evolution is not easy. It's definitely something that you're like, oh yes, evolution, so natural, right? You're thinking Darwin evolution, we're just gonna grow legs and we're just gonna start walking. But no, it's actually very, very, very tough. And it doesn't stop. Like even after your first step of jumping into the waters and being like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna explore this on my own, it doesn't stop there. And there's a quote by Anais Nin that says something about, so I don't have the exact words, but something about when the bud of a flower is so, do you know what that, do you know?
Yeah, it is. It's one of my favorite ones. It's like there's a moment when the bud of the flower is so tight, it doesn't have a choice except to open.
Yeah, except to bloom. And that's the image that I see. Like, we struggle so much in that state of the bud where we're so tight and we're trying to do so much just to keep ourselves there. But actually, like our inner voice, our spirit just wants to bloom with that new information that comes with time. And we just need to give it space and give it that, give it that space, like energetically, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, financially, to bloom. And so that's sort of how I've learned and come to realize it. And so, okay, so one of your questions was like, how do you continue in that? How do you continue in that YOLO lifestyle?
Just what was your journey from corporate to now? Like how many different evolutions
have I had?
Right? Because I think people think it's going to be magical and instant. And I love this idea that your YOLO life evolves and it's not always easy. So, I think just sharing with people that there've been a couple of different iterations
of the actual journey.
The most meaningful one.
Yeah, so the first iteration was, I thought I was just going to do one-on-one coaching. And that was definitely what I really, really loved doing. That lasted for about half a year. And then I started joining more masterminds and more communities. And I started seeing the possibilities of speaking and teaching groups. And I thought that was super exciting. And at that time, my program was called Passion to Action. And And so it was helping people pinpoint their passions and drive them into action. And then I started really getting passionate about business. Because I realized if you don't have business, you can't fund your passions. And if you can't really, it's not an expensive hobby. And so I started trying to crack the whole business part, and not just from a perspective of left-brained, arduous sort of like push, but also a feminine, energetic sense of like, okay, what needs to be in balance in yourself in order to create that abundance. So I got into that. And so that was sort of that became the Freedom Success Formula program, which was a group program online with a curriculum. And that was the first time I ran it. That followed the evolution of passion to action. And then I started doing a lot of talks and also the book. So in the book, I actually wanted to use the passion to action plus Freedom Success Formula and turn it into a book of the You Only Live Once life and business style. But during that time, I had accumulated all this other information, and I was resisting. I was procrastinating a lot on writing the book. I wanted to write it in 2 months. It took me 4. I know it's not like a long time.
That's still really fast.
A little bit underachieving there, right?
I know. I am like a chronic overachiever. I was just at a cranial sacral session with one of my healers, and she was like, your little muscles really want to develop. You're using all your big muscles, and your little muscles are the ones that really, really are like just screaming and saying, hey, like we want to develop and support your body. And so it's like such a nice analogy to life, like we're always going for those big achievements and those big plaques, but like, hey, like the little journeys actually really, really matter. And so I realized that with each new product that I wanted to make, like each new creative output that I had, I also had a lot more feedback, and I needed to incorporate that into my next thing in order to not make it feel stale for a creative soul. And I know you guys talk to so many creative people, and you can't just copy and paste what you did before into the next thing because it doesn't feel inspiring. And I actually had a hard time with that.
That sounds like Minette.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I often share, so Ying and I both met in a coaching community called Thrive Academy. And I'll never forget one of the mentors in that community, Jesse Corin, standing up on stage saying that he had led their big 3-day summit 70 times. And I thought, what in the heck am I going to teach live on stage 70 times and not bore myself to death? And the point that I've come to understand, it's not about whether it bores me to death or not. It's whether it bores my audience. And that 70 times is actually what's created incredible mastery and success for him in his business. And so for me, it was that beautiful lesson. And we actually did a podcast on this a month or so ago on over creating, like this constant drive and need to create something new doesn't always serve you in your business. Yes, it needs to evolve and get better and grow, but it doesn't have to be brand new. So we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater either. So it's like such a crazy balancing act between holding on to your best stuff, like those beautiful nuggets. Like when I look back now from 2014, 2015, when I just started, when I first wrote my book, it's all the same ideas, but they continue, as in your words, to just evolve beautifully, right? So what I would imagine that everything in Passion to Action just has evolved beautifully into what you're doing now.
Totally. Absolutely. Like when you look back, actually your message, your core message is the same. And it just has a lot more dimensions to it, and it's deeper. And as you're working with that message more and more, your offer, your You Only Live Once offering to the world, I see it as an offering because it's really you're giving yourself and what you stand for to the world. It just becomes stronger, and that voice becomes louder when you follow that, and you realize that actually there's something that ties it all together. So the latest work that I'm putting out there is actually the latest iteration of all of those previous ones. The best parts.
So awesome.
So I have maybe we'll route this discussion in a little different direction. So let's pretend that I'm 30 years younger. Does that make me a millennial? Something like that. Anyway, I hear
I
my
think
daughter. My daughter's laughing at
in
me
the
in the background.
background.
Anyway, and so I want to live this lifestyle. And what do I need to commit to? What am I coming to you, asking you? What I know that I don't want to be Mad Men. I know that I don't want to go into corporate. And I'm passionate about X or Y. But what is it I'm getting myself into? What is this lifestyle?
Actually, what is this lifestyle? There's like two things I want to address here. First, like, no matter how old you are, there's still you only live once life. Right. And that can be something that right away, like what that is, or that could be something that is some piece of new information that is really resonating with you, and you're like, you know what, this is my next excitement. And that's sort of an excitement, meaning not like, oh my God, yeah! Like excitement can be a calm excitement that is like, you know what, this is really, really moving me. So that's the distinction I want to make between no matter what age you are, there is something that keeps you living and keeps you really passionate about life. If you were 30 years younger and you were saying, what does it take to really have this life? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, what we talked about commitment before we started on the podcast. What am I committing to? Do you have people asking that question, or what does it take to live this lifestyle?
Yeah, it takes. Even ask that question, and they should be asking that question.
Good question. I'm thinking how to segue this into that. It's like you're committing. So there's a couple of things you're really committing to, but the ultimate thing, which is actually really well outlined in chapters, I think 2 to 3 of the book. It's about saying yes and knowing what you're saying yes to, and finding out what that deeper sense, deeper thing that you commit to is. So finding out the 3 words or the 3 values that you're really committed to. So they could be anything that you stand for. I know one of my, and different people have done this in different ways. Like some coaches use like the wheel to figure out like what is actually really important to you. And within that, like what's the most important thing. Some people, it's, there's another coach that we both know who does it from the format of heart virtues. What are things that really mean a lot to you? For me, it's fun, inspiration, and inspired connections and freedom. Right. And those are things that I have to have in order for the work to really blossom. And so keeping that 3 pillars in place is really what is going to keep you happy while you're on this journey. But the more important thing, so that's like the detailed specific things you need to be committed to. And you can find that out, you guys out there, like if you know it, you don't know it, like you can find that out through some of the questions that in the book, so specifically yours. And for the people who are just like kind of like, on this journey, like the biggest piece here is actually committing to living this you only live once lifestyle and committing to your truth. I mean, it's not easy. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. A lot of times you'll be fighting your inner voice. You'll be fighting what you really want because you think that you want something else. And it doesn't stop in corporate. Like once you jump into do your own business, the next thing is like, hello, you have to use this system, or you have to use this program, or you have to do this. And you're thinking like, you know what, like I'm just going to do that because I'm on an entrepreneurial journey and I'll implement all these things and then it'll be perfect. And then you get to the end of the implementation of that 10-step system and you're just like, you know what, like where's my inspiration? Where's my creativity? Like, why am I burnt out? Why am I on this train chugging along and I'm not feeling it anymore? Isn't this supposed to be my passion? And at that point, it's really about, okay, committing to the You Only Live Once business. What is this business that I want to create? And is this the type of business that I want to create. And are these the kind of people that, are my you only live once clients? And it's just like a constant check-in of, is this YOLO? Is this YOLO? And reconnecting with what your true your deeper commitments are. And I think that is such something that I see coaches and holistic practitioners and creative entrepreneurs struggle with when you see so much information on Facebook saying do this program and do that. And there's just so much competition around what people are doing that you feel like you're behind. And it trains people.
It's interesting. It's almost like a beginner's mind type of thing where you're coming back to the focus every day, or, recommitting to that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can you say a little bit more about this idea of business as a relationship? Because I'm listening to you talk and it feels like everything that I have to do to keep my marriage going, I have to do to keep my business going.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the business is a relationship with, everything is relationship, right? If you think about it, your relationship with your clients is relationship. Your relationship to yourself is a relationship. Your relationship to your business is a relationship. With your partner is a relationship. And it's really about that letting go of expectation. There's difference between agreements and expectation. And agreement means, this is a huge distinction that I usually it's like my first session with clients. What are our agreements within our relationship, and what is expectation, and how do we have more agreements? Because agreements are powerful. There are two people wanting to do this, or two parties, and the expectation is I just expect you to follow. So business as a relationship. You're constantly, if you see business as an entity and you're constantly committing to helping this business bloom, but that business is actually an extension of yourself. So you're talking to the business, you're constantly committing to give it what it needs to bloom, but you're also constantly connecting to yourself and realizing, okay, what is it that this truth needs to express through the business? And I think the relationship piece of it is being able to not put expectations on it. Let's say you have a 10-year plan for this business, and at year 3, it's gone in a different direction, and not try to keep pulling it back, but actually having some space after. Usually what happens is after a huge creative output, so after the book that I wrote, there was a huge silence period, and a tendency is for us to jump back on the train and be like, okay, now I'm going to throw another product out, but it's really holding that space with this new creation, with that new emptiness, and seeing what emerges with this. So how does this relate to a relationship? It's like looking at your partner, and when you see them, you're not seeing the person who you saw 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 5 years ago. And really not holding them to the expectation that you have in their head that, hey, they're still that person. This person has evolved. They've changed. Be present to that. And how can you co-create from this place forward? And how can you agree to what you guys want to do together, this place forward? And I think that is really a sense of, if this is too vague, it's bringing it back down to a sense of beginner's mind, like you were mentioning, a sense of honor, a sense of reverence, really seeing that being as its own life as well as you. So the business, you, and yourself, really. Because I have the relationship within myself is always about the mind and the heart, always trying to fight. Yeah.
I love that. It's a beautiful analogy of the concept of a business. And we often talk about how much being an entrepreneur is an inside out journey, right? That it has to begin and align with the heart and the mind as well. And what a personal growth journey it's been to be in business, right? Not just to be in business on our own, but with each other, raising kids along the journey. So I love that whole concept of and the brilliant reminder that everything is a relationship, right? It's such a powerful reminder. So sadly, we're drawing near to time because this is like the best conversation. So I have one question, and then I want to know, I know you have a free gift for people, and I want people to be able to connect with you. But Brad asked this at the beginning, and I wanted to come back around to it. What are third culture kids?
Okay, third culture kids are kids who live in cultures which are not their parents, which are not where their parents are from. So my mom is from Singapore, my dad's from Taiwan, and throughout my life I lived in Singapore first, but then Germany, Hong Kong, Shanghai, California, and Taiwan. So all of those different places are actually not where my parents are born. So you're in this so you have two cultures with you, and then you have like a third culture that is the place where you grow up. And so the defining quality is identity crisis. So you're constantly in a space where you're reinventing yourself, and you're also sometimes lose sight of who you really are because you're constantly adjusting. Your adaptation skills are just like an octopi, because you can adapt to anything. But that also means you really need to know who you are.
Yeah, I can see how grounding is a pretty big part of that. You could definitely be, well, you have a unique, or a kid like that has a unique context that they're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't think they probably even understand what the context is, because they're trying to process what somebody said to them in the context of three different cultures at once.
It takes the Gumby Factor like to the extreme. So one of my friends, when I was in grad school, all of us were in a Latin American studies program, and we had all traveled and been around the world, and he called it the Gumby Factor. Do you even know who Gumby is?
No.
So Gumby is
Pokey
and Gumby were these cartoon characters. And at the time, this was in the 80s, they were super, super popular. And you'd go somewhere in the world and you'd try to make a joke about Gumby and nobody would get it, right? And like, you don't ever get the inside joke when you live that many places and you're not grounded in any of them, right? So it always is a little bit like being on the outside edge, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Or you get all of the inside, not all, but like you get a lot of the inside jokes, but you can't take them with you. So you're constantly having to like kind of dive deep into a new inside world. Gotcha. And then you're like, okay, so these people, this is who I am. And then those people, that's who I am, because you've changed throughout the different countries as well. So it's like a lot of compartments that you then got to integrate into your life. Otherwise, you just have like 10 pieces of you in different parts of the world.
That's fascinating.
It's just such a beautiful, beautiful perspective. And I'm curious, how much of that story do you share in the book?
I think it goes out throughout it. I actually talked to my dad yesterday, and I was like, because he lives in China right now, and I was like, and people have been wanting to translate it, and I thought, like, maybe this is not going to be suitable for China because it's just too international, and I really wanted to connect with China on the China level and what they're going through as a society. So I do share a lot about it, but I'm thinking like, I do need to adjust it for cultural relevance.
Which is a whole nother fascinating perspective about living a global lifestyle. When do you get to just be you instead of constantly being in this place of adjusting to fit into other cultures? When do you just be you?
So right now the mission, and right now, like sort of like, I think like starting when I started the business, I realized that I just need to be me. And because otherwise your energy is really spread out. And so once you're calling in all the different parts and you're just like, integrate everything into this one new version or consolidated version, it is you. So the language, just like marketing, is just a way for people to come into your world, and then once they're in your world, you can share the message with them. So the messaging needs to be culturally relevant and like speaking to their deepest desires and the challenges that they're going through. But once they come into the world, then they can really get access to the whole philosophy and the way of life.
I love that. So I have a really curious question for you that I'm sure our clients would love to know, because you are living this global lifestyle. You know, I've seen you be popping around the last few years.
Yes.
And yet you're consistently getting clients. What's the number one best way that you get new clients?
I have so many. I do talks, and I also do a lot of online communication and referrals. 3 ways.
Awesome. So those are great. And when you say online communication, that's really big and really vague. Does that mean you're directly reaching out to people? Or are you doing Facebook Live? Like, what are the... people want the global lifestyle.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you don't have business, you can't fund your passion.
Yeah.
Lifestyle. So what are your best tips for helping people make those connections?
Sure. So step 1 is sort of knowing what you're offering, like knowing what value you're bringing to your audience, and the people who you're helping, specifically who that is, what pain points they have. You know, that needs to be really clear, and that needs to be really connected to you, because then that reduces the friction of you sharing that. And then step 2, once you have finished figuring out what that resonance is between you and what you're offering, is to have the messaging that resonates with your people. So it's all about being able to connect, right? Relationship. It's all about being able to connect the easiest way possible. And so you bring that theory and you bring that into your online. You connecting with your offer connecting to other people's needs, and then them connecting with you once you guys are in a relationship, and it's a long-term relationship. So that's the relationship piece, and then the systems and the strategic pieces are, you know, knowing exactly what their pain points and challenges are, speaking to those from the heart, showing up all the time. Visibility is something, you know, that you will struggle with if you're not used to it, and finding your voice. So finding your voice and showing up is like, you got to find out like what is your specific marketing style: written, podcast, video, or live events, right? And so I've tried all of them, and the book 35,000 words, a little bit more, actually was one of the things that I hated doing. Not hated, but like I had resisted newsletters the longest time. In my first year of business, I wrote 2 newsletters. Second year of business, I wrote 4. And then this year, I wrote the book because I was like, I need to break through this writing, like, you know, this, I just can't. Like, I need to break through this writing thing. And so this year, I think I wrote, up until like this month, like 36 emails, and and only 8 has gone out. So I'm done for the rest of anyway. But it's about being really, really like knowing your message, knowing your audience, and then sharing that message. That's like the basic outline of it. And then there's different methods and systems that you can put in place to make sure that this flow of attraction is continuous online, and offline as well. So
I love it. So Ying, where can people go to connect with you? I know you have a free gift for everybody.
Yeah, I can share it.
And then we'll share all the links in the show notes as well. Sure.
So if you're offering, so my gift is about offers, and it's called the Irresistible YOLO Offer Experience. I'm holding a class, it's live, and we're going to bring you through a process and experience to really connect with yourself and see what shows up for your offers. So if your offering isn't really contributing to your you only live once lifestyle, and you're starting to feel uninspired, unmotivated, overwhelmed, or you're just like in a hamster wheel that just keeps spinning, and you feel like you need to do all these things and you're just not doing it. And even though, you know, from the outside, everyone's like, hey, you're doing a good job, this will be the masterclass for you. So, you know, chances are one or more things aren't aligned, and you really need a shift, and you want that shift to stay. So what will you receive in this masterclass? Top 5 mistakes not to make when you're creating your YOLO juicy offer, how to create, you know, fun into it, 5 transformational strategies to make sure that you are connected to your gifts. So that includes how to transform the overwhelm of systems and the should-dos into a focused and inspired action that is relevant to you only, and pleasurable ways to increase the number of committed clients when they come and meet your offer, and who can't just, you know, who can't wait to say yes, and who can't wait to say, you're the person I'm looking for, I really want to work with you. And that
like
exists.
It does sound like a great offer.
Clients, like those kind of clients exist, you know.
Where can they find this offer?
So the offer that you can find is in the link below. So I'll send you the link and you can register for that masterclass. It's only going to run live once, and I'll make sure that it runs like during the time that this comes out. And yeah, and it's basically an experience to receive the shift that you need to get your office flowing again. That's uniquely yours.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This has been a lot of fun, Ying. I really enjoyed it. Lots of neat perspectives.
I know, lots of great juicy tips. So, and I love that you're modeling what it means, what it looks like, and how to live the YOLO lifestyle. So super awesome. And can they get your book on Amazon, right? It's probably the
with the offer.
Say the name of the book.
You Only Live Once, Life and Business Style.
Awesome.
And if you register for the masterclass, I'm actually also going to send out some chapters to
Sweet.
share.
Awesome. Super, super juicy. Yeah, very generous. Ying, thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate you. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan. This is Brad Dobson. We're the Path to Profit podcast. If you loved what Ying had to say today, please go leave a review over on iTunes. We love getting the feedback. And if you have ideas for guests, we're always open. Tell us who you want us to interview, or what are you looking for in your business? We'd be happy to bring on some other experts like Ying to share about what's working in business today and to share their journeys and their stories. Not everybody's story is amazingly global like Ying's, but super, super fun to see you here. Thanks again for your time today. So much fun.
Thanks, Ying.
Thanks.